Okay, so 65 days for forging millions of dollars in cashier's checks. Okay, well, some people would have learned their lesson, but not you.
Well, I learned my lesson to a degree that, like, be careful who you associate with. There was a lot of lessons I learned, but not the lesson of I wasn't scared straight, obviously.
Right.
And, that didn't come till much later when there was much bigger chips on the line. But I learned, I did get educated in county. I learned a lot of game in there from a lot of guys, all different races. Once I was sentenced and I was in East LA substation as a trustee and then in Biscaloo Center just doing my time. And they didn't send me to Wayside. They had BC open then. You meet a lot of guys, and when they heard my case, to them, that was really interesting. That wasn't your typical case that was in there. So a lot of guys wanted to talk to me about how did you do this? How did you do that? And as you're having those conversations, they kind of school you about how shit on the street that I'd never thought about really works. And, you kind of put that, I tell everybody, any business that you ever starts because you have a piece of information and then you hear something or see something or have an idea and you're able to put the pieces that you have together to form a puzzle. It doesn't matter whether it's criminal or legitimate. It's all the same, right?
True.
Like a guy's not going to go make an app that can't write code or doesn't have a friend or a contact that can make code. Like whatever connections you have is you build your businesses around if they're going to be successful usually.
Okay, so now you're out of the counterfeit business.
Yeah.
What's the next hustle?
Next hustle is a real estate hustle in Florida.
Okay.
Working for a guy named Judah Hertz. He had a hard 13499 Biscayne Boulevard, a building called Sailboat K. It had 180 units. And when you do a successor developer thing, meaning you're going to convert those apartment units into condos, once you sell half of the condos, the person who did the conversion now has to start paying the HOA for the remaining units that haven't been sold yet. Add to that a hard money loan at 16% from Yale Mortgage. And Judah Hertz was like, he offered me $100,000 to put the building in my name, rent those units out, collect as much money as I could, and declare bankruptcy.
Okay.
So I get there and, I learned this is actually how Judah Hertz, Ike Gamble, Sonny Khan, before he really became a different person. Now he's a religious guy that's very straight and narrow. But back in the day, all these guys were, that's what they did. The scam was, hey, you go in to an apartment building and you tell the people, hey, you're paying $1,000 a month rent and you're never going to own anything. I'll give you $10,000 in cash and you'll pay $800 a month rent on a mortgage where you're going to own. Now, who doesn't take that deal? Everybody takes it. Now, how do you make that happen? Well, let's say the condo's $60,000 back then is what you need for it. Well, you say that the condo's $80,000 and you've already gotten a $20,000 deposit, which is 25%. So now or $10,000 deposit, which was the qualifier, or $12,000, whatever it is. Now the bank is going to give $70,000 on this $60,000 condo. So you cut back 10 to the tenant, who's now the owner, who's happy as can be because even if they've got a shitty front end interest loaded loan that's going to take them forever to pay off, and their total amount of payoff is way more than it should be, they're still paying $800 a month mortgage instead of $1,000 a month rent. So, it's infinitely better even that it's bad. And that's how they built out all of Miami, all those buildings, all those condo buildings, that's how they did that in the 80s, 90s.
Okay. So
I'm out with a couple girls. I bump into this Venezuelan dude, Mauricio Vivas, good guy. He's in the emerald business. And instead of doing all that nonsense, I sell him the remaining 78 units. He buys them. He becomes a successor developer. I'd learned by reading like what the whole thing was, is I told Mauricio, he's like, oh, I don't want to pick up and pay the the HOA and this and that. And that was a deal point. And all these guys who were doing millions of dollars in real estate and, big dudes in the game, Judah, Mauricio, all the people that were around, none of them actually read the law a little bit. Anyway, I read it. I was like, bro, just take only 5 units per entity. Make a bunch of entities and take 5 units per entity, and then you don't become the successor developer because you need to own a minimum of 6 units for this law to apply.
So he's right under the threshold.
Yeah. So he made a bunch of entities, right? And each one took 5 units. And then when he sold, as he sold the units, he would give me $1,600 a piece for a 2-bedroom and $1,000 a piece for a 1-bedroom.
Okay. So how did this thing ultimately fall apart?
No, that thing was fine. It didn't.
So it was a totally legal business, more or less.
Yeah. I did it legally instead of the illegal way that the clean people wanted it done.
Okay. So why not just stick to that?
Well, I didn't have any more buildings that were in that situation to do that. And not only that, this guy, Omar Al-Kiyami, calls me and asks me what I'm doing this summer. And so I got a Porsche convertible. I got some money in my pocket. I'm in Miami. I'm like, oh, I don't know. He's like, why don't you come to San Tropez? And I'm like, dude, I ain't going anywhere where it's fucking $80 for a bottle of water, right? Like, I've never been there, but that's like the stories you hear about the place back then. He's like, no, just bring some girls like you introduced me to in LA a couple years ago, and we'll pay for everything, flights, everything. We got a beautiful house, the whole fucking thing, right? Like, you'll have a car, all the clubs, everything, we'll go out. I was like, bro, I'm not a fucking pimp. Like, I can't promise you that you're going to fuck the chicks. And he's like, no, you just promise us that you won't bang them. And you can bang anybody else you want, but just promise us that you won't bang them. And I'm like, okay, immediately I'm like, all right, that's easy, funny. Already banged 2 of them. No big deal, right? So I talked to some girls I know and take them out there. We end up having a great time. And I end up meeting a bunch of, I meet the Al-Tour family. I meet a bunch of Saudis, Emiratis, Asian. It's the biggest conglomeration of wealth on the planet in that month, in San Tropez at that time, right? It's just, all the hottest hookers, all the biggest boats, all the whole thing. I mean, it's really like, wow. So anyway, I meet a bunch of them, and this one, Rashid Al-Tour, he wanted me to leave the table I was with and start hanging out with him and, bring the girls with me. And I was like, dude, you got me fucked up. Like, why would I disrespect my friends who are taking care of me like that? And what makes you think anyway that those girls are going to follow me? Because they're having a great time with the guys. Like, they were nice to them. It wasn't like they weren't fucking creepers or anything. They were young guys who all had family money and they were having a great time, drinking, partying, everything. So anyway, he's like, we see they follow you wherever you go. We know what the deal is, da-da-da. And I was like, bro, I would never disrespect somebody that treated me the way they treated me. Like, you're being disrespectful. And I just got up and left. Now, this dude, I didn't know at the time, but the Al-Tour family in the UAE is like a big deal. Anyway, he next day he sends one of his minions over to me. Oh, and they're calling him the Sheikh. The Sheikh is sorry, he wants to apologize, this, that, the other thing. And I'm game. Okay, cool. Fucking Jewish kid, Sheikh wants to apologize. Let's go see what's happening. Right. I'm full of myself at this time. So anyway, I should tell you a funny story about cranberry vodka with this guy. But anyway, so I get back to his table and he's like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any disrespect. How about after your trip here, we're going to be in London. Why don't you guys come to London and hang out with us before you go home? And I was like, I'll ask the girls, we'll talk about it. Da-da-da. Next day, I tell them, yeah, they said, yeah, no problem, we'll check it out. And then they brought me a bunch of money in fucking envelope. It was like some crazy amount of money. I was like, know, translated to maybe fucking 35 grand
Okay.
for 4 plane tickets from Nice to London. No, that's it. That's all it was, right? And I don't remember. It was in francs, like, but it was a lot of money. Like, because when I told the girls, they're like, okay, cool. If it doesn't work out, we can get our own rooms and then tickets home. No problem. Great. Because we're going to burn the tickets that we have back home now, right? Like, and okay, cool. So I get his number, and a week later, we get to London. We go to the Dorchester Hotel, like he said, and you know, he's not there. And you know, we ask the front desk, "Hey, is Rashid Abtouri?" We're trying to call, no answer. So we go to the hotel to check. Get there, ask for Rashid Abtouri. They say, "No, he's not here." But they say, "Are you Lewis?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, we have your rooms ready. We have 4 beautiful rooms." Anyway, these guys get back a couple of days later. We have a great time. And they're like, you know, the girls go home and they asked me to stay. Rashid asked me to stay. We end up hanging out, becoming friends and, you know, talking. And he's like, you know, why don't you come to UAE? And I was like, bro, listen, man, I'm not at your level. I don't have your kind of money. Like, I have to go back home and get back to the paper chase. Like, you know, this has been a longer summer than I expected. I spent way more. And he was like, yeah, well, listen, don't worry about that. We're going for Ramadan. Come right after. Stay here. My guest with my friends. We take care of everything. Just go out and meet girls. And so next time we're in London, we can have some parties. And so anyway, I end up fucking running around London to all like the top clubs, access everywhere for a month. And I met a lot of people, and some of the people that I met happened to be Chinese who were, you know, kind of running things. They actually were underneath one of the families there, but they were, wouldn't call them a spin-off, I would call them a subsidiary. You know, Europe's a little bit different than here. You can't just go set up on the street corner and start selling dope. Those territories have been divided forever, and even if they're enemies with each other, they will band together to make sure nobody new is doing their thing. That's just the way it is. So everybody's with somebody. Anyway, so these guys, you know, they're clubs, security, got the whole cover, everything, and, you know, having a party one night, and they had some shitty yellow cocaine. Now, I know some people are going to say that yellow cocaine is great, but not all yellow cocaine is great. This was the shitty kind. And I was like, hey, you're running shit. I thought you guys are running shit. What the fuck is this? This is garbage. And they're like, oh, you're taking the fucking piss, mate. Da, da, da. You can do better, this and that. And I was like, of course, I'm from LA. Of course I can do better. I didn't even have a fucking connect right at the time for big amounts of cocaine. And they're like, okay. And anyway, that's how it started. Okay. So I get home. I go to a friend of mine, Simon Mihailov, and he gets me a couple kilos. And we send them, and that's how it started.
Send them how?
FedEx.
So you put a bunch of kilos in FedEx boxes.
Well, it was 2. And what I did was I went to Rexall Drugs, which is, I don't know what it is now, but it's right across the street from the Beverly Center at Beverly and La Cienega. And I went there and I bought a police car and a fire engine, you know, the kind that kids play with. Mm-hmm. Opened up the boxes, unscrewed them, and put half a kilo in each one, got 4 of them, and shipped them. To a friend of mine who was out of town, front desk. So anyway, the front desk dude, you know, gets them, and then I fly there, end up paying him, get those, sell them. Now I got to bring the money back. And that's how it started. And then I went into a pretty big amount because the first 2 got through, but then, you know, I got more. And then I was getting credit from a guy because I had a guy, Simon had introduced me to someone. So now I had my own connect. Turns out I'd known this guy from before. So it was almost like came with a built-in credit history, right? And next thing you know, I'm 600 grand in debt because I've lost 40 keys to customs shipping them.